Thank you so much for joining us today for this learning webinar. I'm sure we are going to learn really great things from Satish Purushottam sir. Thank you so much, sir, for taking this webinar. So let me give you introduction to our dear mentor Satish Purushottam and sir. Sir have been a career coach with more than 20 years of experience in financial industry, working across North America, EMEA and APAC regions. Through the years, sir have mentored and coached students to give them the important perspective of understanding each of their potential and choosing their careers of interest based on their individual strengths and likes. Working with them to help them identify their inner seeking in choosing the right career path which would set them for a bright future. Over to you.
Thank you, Preeti. So I hope all of us can see the slide one, which is introduction to problem solving and decision making. So our core agenda for today's session is to, relate problem solving and decision making. Now, this is something that we generally come across in our professional life, in our student career planning, and so on. So it's very important that we kind of digest what is required, and then how do we take on a problem solving and decision making process as we grow. So we'll swiftly move to slide number 3. So let's understand what is problem solving. So there are many topics under a problem solving. So if you look at the picture there, the guy who's standing is actually looking at multiple options which are available to solve a puzzle. Now, for a single problem, there could be multiple options which could actually solve the problem. But first, where do I start? What do I know? And where do I start? That becomes the essence of problem solving, and the due course ends with decision making. So the story is like that. Once I have understood the nuances of problem solving, I have a better chance of making a clear decision to say that this is the best possible option that I have to solve a problem. So that is exactly the narrative that we are going to talk about in the next 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, so let's go and understand this topics. What is the problem? Where is it happening? What is causing it? How is it happening? When? So time, what time is it happening? Prioritizing your problem, right? You may have multiple problems, so how do you prioritize the problem? Understand your role in the problem. So multiple times you could just be in a problem where your role could actually be significant as somebody else's role. But what is your role in the problem? Once you have identified it, plan the implementation, which means solutioning of the problem, and then monitoring it. Okay, I have implemented the plan. Am I actually on the track? Is it solving, or does it require further more enhancement, or does it require further more ideas or changes, repair work, and verify if the problem is solved. That's the end goal. So let's go dive deep into each of these topics. So what is the problem? Here again, I have detailed what is a problem into multiple elements. The reason for diversification of this is to understand the core element of where is the problem and what are the different elements that can actually be attributed. So let's go and understand it. And for understanding, the best example is to take some noticeable examples that we have come across live. So let's say, for example, in this slide, we'll take an example of an exam or a certification or a course, right? So whatever you think you have come across, or I have taken here as an example of a very simple examination or certification. Let us take that as the core problem solving for this slide. right? So let us say, explain the problem, right? So when I say explain the problem, so I could say, okay, I'm not able to do the certification. I could not get through the certification. I could not get through this, subject in a certain test, right? That could be the problem, right? That could be the problem. Be specific to explain the problem in detail. So what is that you are not able to do? Okay, so my score, and I'm expecting a score of so X percentage, but my score is like X1 percentage. So I want to bridge a gap between X to X1 percentage. So you can actually go more and explain this in detail. How do you do that? So what information is required? Is this because that's the third topic? What information is required? So what information we are looking at is, okay, is this because information, when I'm seeking information, I'm looking for, okay, did I have the right books? Did I go for the right class? Did I attend the class? Did I read what is required? Uh, did I made the right attempt to do the exam the way that it is actually prescribed? Did I talk to the subject matter expert who's supposed to, or the person, the teacher or the lecturer? Put those facts into the details. The next one is, has the problem been faced already? Now, this could be that I have approached this exam first time, or could it be that it could be the certification or exam the second time, or it could be the third time. But if I have experienced this on my own, so I have a better experience of this. But if I haven't had it and approaching this as the first time, I'll better go and seek information from those who have already done it. Right? And this is very common. It's not very uncommon, right? We go and look at it. Look at what is that is required to crack it. It doesn't mean that I need to have an experience on my own to crack it the first time and then I will take my own experience. No, may not be required. You can still go and approach who have already done it. That's what we call lessons learned. So go and approach person who has already faced it, even if it is not you, and what kind of information they provide. So that is the best alternative. The next item is the problem by itself or a symptom of an underlying problem? Okay, now what is this? Is the problem by itself or an underlying problem? Could it be that I have no interest in this, in doing it? Or could it mean that I'm actually trying to do this, but I've got other assignments? I've got a cricket coaching, I've got a music class, playing, soccer or football classes. So my concentration is probably not there, or I'm not able to put time, or I don't have an interest, or it could be something else, right? So the last topic of what is the problem that we see, that is there a symptom of an underlying problem, right? So let's move to the next one. What is causing it? Where is the problem originates from? Where is the source of the problem originating from? Right? So the second is it developed on its own or a byproduct of something else? Right? So is it on its own, or is it because that you got into another study, or is it because of that it is like applying into this because of some other reason? The next one is, can you avoid it? say, okay, so an academic exam may be something that we may not be able to avoid, maybe a certification or maybe in either class. So when we say avoid may not mean that you're completely ignoring it. It could be, taken into pushing into different timelines, making a suitable timeline when you can actually take it, or you can completely avoid it also if that may not cause an issue. Or do you need to create a solution? So can I push this for the next 2 quarters and then I can still manage it because I'm engaged with few other things? No, it cannot sit for 2 quarters. I can make it to 1 quarter. So if it is 1 quarter and then I've got too many things that I need to take care, then which means you have to go for a solution. So detailing as much as possible will help understand the core of the issue and then to make a better idea around what we can do to achieve it. So let's go on to the next one, slide 5. So here, so is this triggered by itself or some action is behind it to be triggered? So how is it happening? So let's take another example, maybe a car example. So the point here is like, how is it happening? How is it happening? Is this triggered by itself or some action is behind it to be triggered? So let's say the person has got a car and he approaches the car dealer to say, hey, the car is not starting. So then if you are a mechanic in the car dealer shop, then you go around asking questions. Oh, okay, so why is this not starting? So now we understand that the person has constantly kept the headlights on throughout the night for multiple days, and then he switches off only when he remembers. So over a period of time, we know that the battery of the car drains because it cannot hold the power when it is switched on without the car is on, not in a non-running state. So there is an action which is actually triggering the primary action being failed. So there is a action which is the primary action being that the car is not started, but there is some kind of an action which is done behind, which if it can be solved, right? So this is one example. There could be multiple other examples. So if the battery was charged and then if it was then taken in the future, so this could have been in a different case. But so this example is like, okay, the car was kept running with the headlights on, so there is some action behind it. So how is it happening? So you understand the nature of the issue or the root cause of the issue. And then you are still a mechanic, so you further ask because you want to understand the core of the issue. Okay, when is it happening? What time is it happening? Okay, this customer says, sir, this happens in morning 9 a.m. Just imagine if you have not heard how it is happening. Right? What time is it happening? It's 9 a.m. So that's in the rush hour. So you're starting the morning 9 a.m. You're trying to drive to office, school. It's not happening. Right? So what time? So the time is at 9 a.m. But where is the root cause? The root cause was last night, 9 hours, 10 hours, it was not running. So that was the root cause. What is the duration of the problem? So that is very important as a mechanic. You're trying to understand the customer's problem. What's the duration of the problem? So the duration of the problem is very significant because the person as a customer is trying to get out to office, trying to drive his children to the school. It doesn't seem to work. That day is like it's a very difficult day. So duration could be 2 hours, 3 hours. It depends. So does it go away on its own, or do you create a solution each time? Does it go away, or do you create a solution each time? So you ask this to the customer, right? Just so you understand, and then you're better prepared to solve the problem for the customer. So each time, this could be example where you could call a mechanic to do a battery jump start, which could possibly be in say 15, 20 to half an hour, or could actually mean that the battery is charged, which could possibly be like 3 to 4 hours, or you have a wire and then you call your neighbor to do the jump start for you. But either of these choices are solutions. But what that means is that there is a solution, but there is a time. There is a time which takes, say, probably from 1 hour to 2 hours to 3 hours to 4 hours, depends on the time of availability of the solution. And it does not completely stand on the customer. It depends on an external factor. It could be the neighbor, it could be the vendor. It could also mean something to do with the car's battery as well. If it is worn out quite well, then it means it could take a little longer than what is expected. So the duration is also very significant, and also the time that you take to solve the solution is also significant. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So slide 6, we're talking about prioritizing your problem. For this slide, I think we'll take another example. Let's run through the line items there, and then I'll talk about the example. Is there more than one problem that needs a solution? So sometimes we generally have one problem, but sometimes in the professional life you have multiple problems. Is your problem has multiple problems underlying that needs to be answered? Okay. What is the most important problem which needs immediate solution, which is most significant to you that needs to be addressed? And it could actually be, on the same subject or on multiple subjects. So let's say there's a person who is trying to climb a cliff, a steep cliff. He's on his way to an end, to the top of the cliff. On his way towards the end, probably 2 to 3 meters away, where he will be successful, there is a beehive, and then the beehive finds that, okay, there is a human and he is an enemy, and they start coming out and then start biting him. That's problem A. Problem B, he's been there and he thought he could make it a little quicker than what actually he was prepared for. Now, the time duration, what he thought was a little lengthier, the bee is biting, the sun is like say 40 degrees or more, it's really hot, and he's sweating, and he definitely needs water, and he's almost losing his consciousness. He's sweaty, and he definitely needs some water. And he looks up the rope, and then he finds that the thread, which is actually hanging on the top of the anchor to the cliff, is actually trying to it's burning out, and the threads are loosening up, and that could actually be a serious issue. So here, the cliffhanger needs to decide what is his priority of the problem. So he needs to immediately identify what is his primary problem. That needs to be addressed, and then he can look at the secondary and the third. Right. So prioritizing will become most important in places where you have multiple problems which can actually fall into the same subject. So let's move to the next one. So, understand your problem, understand the role, understand your role in the problem. What's your role in the problem statement? How are you impacted of this problem? What is your role in solving the problem? How does the problem impact you? Now, in a practical scenario, what happens in the let's say an example here. I know. Let's take a car as an example, right? So we were talking about being a car mechanic. So imagine if you're a car mechanic, and then for this time example, let's say that you are a car AC mechanic. Let's imagine there's a new customer who's walking around, and he calls up, and then he says, "Hey," he puts along with the supervisor, and he says, "Hey, I've got a problem. The mileage of the car is pretty low than what is the desired level. I've got a serious issue. This needs to be addressed. I also see that the AC is actually switching off after 3-4 minutes of me starting the car. And also the wheels are not actually aligned. So if I leave the steering wheel without me touching it, it kind of goes either the right side or the left side." Now this has been explained to the supervisor, this car mechanic supervisor. Okay, and let's imagine if you are one of the persons there as an AC technician, and then reporting into the supervisor. So now, what is your role in the problem statement? He said 3 problems, but what is your role? Your role is only one, which means to ensure that the AC is running pakka without an issue. How are you impacted of the problem is, unless this is solved, supervisor will not leave you. He will need you to solve the problem. So, can you work in isolation in the problem on your own and to solve give a solution? Maybe, but not 100%. So this means in certain occasions, when the slide, the first slide of an exam, we spoke about appearing for an exam or certification, where the problem lies with only one individual and doesn't impact others. So that narrative and detailing out and problem solving is quite different when this comes into a solutioning portion, having to work with multiple people or multiple teams, sometimes 3-4 teams, 5-6 teams. Even if you provide a solution on your own, the solution has to be a solution for the rest of the team. So the solution on your own may not actually solve the entire problem. So as an AC technician, you might provide a solution. Okay, this is the solution to solve it. This will start after, okay, the 5 minutes this car starts, and then this AC will run. That's it. Tata bye-bye. It's not going to work, because this person said that mileage is not there. So mileage is associated with running the AC. So how much? I'll not go into the details, right? But what is the solutioning that you provide to ensure that the AC is running? That is the primary problem. Second, you will have to work with the engine mechanic to identify what is the best possible solutioning that can be given. So the mileage is also taken care and the AC is also running. So as a AC expert, you are trying to work to provide a solutioning, not just for running the AC, but also to ensure that mileage is also taken care of, right? So the wheel alignment could actually be left off, but the essence of this is like the problem solving sometimes can be isolated to one person, two persons, and it could actually teams that may actually be looked at in trying to solve it. So, okay, that's important. Okay, so once we have identified the solutioning, plan the implementation of the resolution of the problem. Plan how to resolve the problem. This could mean, okay, so going back to the example, I can say, okay, I can take 2 quarters to solve it, and I'm going to have a pack of 1 hour a day where this time I'm going to study, and then I'm going to put this as in my calendar to start working through that. Take baby steps on that. Next is monitoring the implementation. So say 1 month later, I'm going to do a mock test to check if it's going to work. I have scored X percentage. I want to score X 1%, and this mock test, I want to make sure that I get some percentage, which will. So there is something that I want to see where I can gauge myself from here to first month. Second month, I want this percentage, an extra X2%. Third month, X3%. Fourth month, X4%. The same way that you treat the car. Okay, so the engine mechanic and you have gone for a solutioning. You will drive the car for 50 miles and then see, okay, this is the mileage. Okay, so we'll have to go do some more rework. So you'll tell the customer upfront saying, hey, give me 15 days time and we will give you. But you cannot go back and on the 15th day to work on to drive the car to tell the customer, okay, now the car is problem is resolved, go and take it. Every single day, the first day you will solve the problem, the second day you will solve the problem, third day you solve the problem, fourth day drive the car, see what is the problem again, fifth day. So it is a tracking every single day, and by the 13th or the 14th day it should have actually been solved. So that's monitoring the implementation. And then the end, verify if the problem is resolved or not. Right? So what is very important is when there is a milestone or when there is a date when you think you should have actually reached, you should be well ahead of the time to say that whether you will reach the goal or not. We are talking about the 15th day to the customer to say, hey, I will give it to you on 15th day, but you should be able to say that on the 13th day whether it is going to work or not. So you don't give the disappointment to the customer on the 15th day saying, sir, this is not going to work. So you will tell him 13th, sir, we are still working, we need some more time. So the customer is looking at you, oh, okay. And then give them the details of what you have done. Give them the working what you have done. One thing I kind of, my experience says is like, don't jump into who is causing the problem. Okay. Who's causing the problem? And rather than looking at the problem on its own and then trying to give a solution, kind of helps much better. And so let's move to the next one. So here, the problem solving has different levels. So we're looking at the first level on the top is analyzing the problem, which involves learning your complete imagination and most creative options. Second is seek for perspectives. It could be anybody, right? And where you are very flexible in your analysis, uh, consider various levels of impact. What could this mean? Brainstorm all possible implications. Research problems for which you lack information. So you have a lot of white papers on Google, you got a lot of information provided on YouTube. There's a lot of information out there which can also help you. And there are various forums where people kind of come and give you guidance as well. Try to think all possible solutions, and look for this. Is one thing that personally I felt like, there could be similar problems we might have faced in the past, or we could have known people who have done it. So lessons learned is something that is always, that will always come handy. Evaluate the possible solutions. So you may have 2-3 possible solutions. Nothing is small and nothing is something that nobody has tried it, and just because nobody has tried it, don't think that what you're going to try is going to fail. It's okay to get tried and failed, but which means you will still learn something out of it. So weighing the advantages and disadvantages. When we spoke about in the slide 6 of the cliffhanger, right? Weighing which is important is, and then prioritizing is important, but that does not mean that somebody else has not tried it and then you should not try it. Weighing the advantage and disadvantage based on the solution. Next one is slide 9. So we have come, I think, with so much of detailed story building, analyzing, and in-depth analysis. We have come to a place where we are in a position to make a very clear, decisive decision. So that's where you make a decision. List the possible choices, which will be the best fit for the current problem, and solving the issue in the future problem. The best possible choice which works to solve multiple problems or as a good advantage. The crux of decision making then is the careful identification and evaluation of alternatives. I think I spoke about this before. Be creative, don't eliminate alternatives just because you have not used it before. We'll move to the last slide. Weighing alternatives. So there is always, people say there is a plan A, there is a plan B, there is a plan C. Always look for plan A, plan B, plan C, and then say what is the advantage and disadvantage of each of that. If A doesn't seem to work out, go for B. If not B, C. But then keep looking for options. So consider the outcome of each likely to produce on both short-term and long-term solutions. So maybe your puzzle doesn't seem to be solving now, but that's okay. Try to solve it on a short term. What could be solved on a short term? Maybe the car example. Sir, I could not solve this mileage thing, but the AC thing is solved. Let us look at the mileage thing later, right? Right. So there is a shorter milestone and the longer milestone, right? Compare alternatives. We spoke about it. Evaluate the negative side effects each may produce. That's important. So when you are weighing it, negative side and advantages should also be proportionately taken care of. Risk is also very important. Consider the risk involved in each. It could be the cost risk, it could be the time risk, it could be the amount of travel that may be required, or it could be any kind of a risk. If I leave the exam now, it's going to take me another 3 more months. Can I wait? So the risk could actually be attributed to the different dimensions of what kind of problem solving that we are looking at. So risk plays a very important role. On its own, risk itself is a separate topic. And choose the best alternatives. Implement, execute, and monitor the plan. And so I think that's pretty much I had it for today. Hope I was able to inculcate something new in today's session. Any questions from anyone?
So thank you so much for taking this webinar. And I'm
Thanks,
sure everyone
Preeti.
have learned a lot from you today to master the problem solving and decision making skills. And I think this webinar is very helpful for not just our attendees and also for me. So I would like to thank you personally for
Thank
taking
you.
this webinar, and it is going to help me also to achieve my goals without any problems or any obstacles. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Preeti.
Thank you.